What's up, guys?
Everybody?
How's it going, guys?
Good.
All right, so we are back. What is this? I think this is our third episode of the season,
Yes.
right? And Trent and I are going to squeeze in close. We're
Yes,
sharing
we are.
today. We are doing our first live interview, and we are here with Josh from Gogebic Community College up in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Woohoo! And so we have
Yes.
him on today. He helps run what they call the SAM program, which is just the ski area management program. And for those of you who know, I went to a similar program in Steamboat. And what kind of led me to that was, my wife and I were deciding what the next steps were after my community college time in Salt Lake was over. And I was like, I think I want to build skis. And she was like, great.
Right.
So I just Googled how to build skis. And the program that I ended up going to just popped up. It was at Colorado Mountain College. But it sounds like this program that Josh runs or helps run is very similar. So we're super excited to have him.
Yeah, definitely. This is a very unique episode to just share with all of our listeners out there. We haven't really hopped into much formal education for the ski industry yet. Most of what Trent and I have talked about has been stuff you learn going through the shops, right? And our experiences up on the mountain and growing up, in a big ski town, right? So this is going to be a really cool opportunity for anyone that wants to chime in and ask questions as we go through this interview. Josh is going to be able to give his best answers for you and talk a little bit about what you can gain from a formal ski education, right? So you can, hop on in, you can go join, Gogebic Community College, and you can learn just as much as Trent knows,
Not that I know it all, but but Josh, will you give us just like a little, like elevator pitch? What's it all about? What do you tell people when they ask you what you do for work?
Yeah. So no, I'm very lucky to be in the position that I am. I am currently right now the assistant director of the ski area management program. Training in to take over in a season or two here. So I'm training under the director right now, Jim Vanderspool. And yeah, I'm a personal graduate back in 2019. And I can't say enough good about it. Once I found out this was even an option or a career choice, I jumped right in, signed up for classes, came right out of high school to it. And it's just such a unique experience because it's a 2-year program for ski area management. So you actually do walk away with your associate's degree. And we have an agreement with Northern Michigan University where you can actually, all of your credits will transfer and you can end up getting your bachelor's degree. And it's your ski area management will be a minor, and then you have business administration, business management. So it leads down a lot of good roads. Our program focuses mostly on the hands-on side of things, like the actual outdoor mechanical, but we do get in a lot of, marketing, business. We're doing like resort management, layout. We do full scale projects for laying out management and all that stuff. And it's really cool because you end up with a co-op program. We call it an internship, but it's essentially a paid position, and we have 100% placement from coast to coast. We work with the students to see where they would like to go, what they would like to be doing, and we got SAMs, as we call ourselves. We got SAMs all over the place in all different positions. It's not always just at mountains. We got people in retail, marketing, sales, you name it. It really leads you down a good road, and you just have so many contacts and good networking capabilities too.
That's awesome. That's way cool. So since you've gone through the program yourself, give us like your overview of what kind of your favorite classes were or your biggest takeaways from the program.
Yeah, one of my favorite classes was probably area layout. So what we do is we have a town just a little northeast from here called Berglund, and it was an original property that somebody was looking at, actually, kind of a corporation or whatever, was looking at purchasing this hill. It's a lookout right now, and they were looking to turn it into a ski resort. So luckily, we have these large maps, topographic maps. And so from start to finish, we get to design the entire layout, and we get to work off numbers like design capacity, vertical transport per hour and stuff like that. So it's really, you get the schematics behind it of like why a resort is laid out the way it is. Why do runs curve? Where's your fall line? How many people do you expect to ski at that area? And based on that, we have different, calculations for how many skiers can fit or typically fit into a run per acre. So then you have your design capacity based on like what lift you need to set up. Do I need a double, single, or double, triple, quad, all the way up to a 6-pack and stuff. And then you're designing everything from your hotel based on numbers, your chalet, parking, you get down to, and then we do a whole nother class with your map based on cost. So how much does it cost to clear, build a snowmaking pond, build a workshop, build, sewage retainer, stuff like that. So that's been a very cool, interesting class. And we also take one of the lifts that you have on the hill and you do all the calculations on tower height, horsepower, counterweight, everything like cable, how many shivs you need to calculate for your load base, how many chairs get on it, the distance and space between the chairs based on the speed. It's a very intricate class. That's probably my favorite one. That one goes on for a while, and actually you get to make 2 maps over your whole 2 years. So you get to kind of correct what you did before, and before you get into that whole cost. And then the other part is just a part of our labs are grooming and snowmaking, because our Mount Zion is on premise of Gogebic Community College. So it's between classes or at night or early morning, you sign up for your shifts. So you learn how to groom the whole mountain. We teach, pushing, building, park, and then also snowmaking as well too. So that's part of your labs of doing a lot of these shifts. And also you get to work the hill. So you get every single position on the hill. We rotate them around, whether it's ski school, handling the tubing hill, being a lift op, doing technician, doing concessions, as well as like lift maintenance and stuff. So it's, you just get a very good hands-on, and it's nice that the shop's right there. I mean, people just walk from the dorms over and stuff too. So, we're always kind of hanging out and talking shop and stuff like that. So it's very, very immersive program.
That sounds awesome. Well, and like you were saying, like there's some things I didn't even consider, right? Like how far away the chairs have to be depending on your speed. Like I never would have thought of that. So, wow, that's crazy.
Oh yeah. That gave me, almost like a little flashback here, right? So when I was going to school, I took a few programs as part of like the entrepreneurial program. My college offered like a whole entrepreneurship series. And part of that, I was like super interested in the ski industry. So I actually designed like a ski boot and ski boot technology and stuff. But I always thought, what if you wanted to like create your own ski resort, and like, how would you go about doing that? And everything you said there, I was like, man, I want to take this class.
Yeah, that sounds
like, no joke. And just the ideas of like, hey, you got to know the costs and of like the startup costs when you're clearing land, and what are you talking about when you're putting in machines and all that layout. Very interesting, and I've never heard anyone really consider that before from my own experience.
Me too. I'm totally in the same boat, and it also makes me think of, I don't know if you know, but there's a new Mayflower resort going in. Did you know that?
No.
It's right over Deer Valley. Actually purchased it. But it makes me think about how much of all this and all the planning and the scope of their project was impacted by everything that you're talking about. So that's crazy. That's awesome.
Right. So I got a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just adding in on the other stuff too. It's been cool learning like the laws and logistics of like how to handle and work with like national forest and federal forest land and stuff like that. Cause like you're talking about expansion a lot out by you guys out west. I mean, how like almost 100% of it's going to be like national forest. So, working with the DNR, understanding, soil and plant types and stuff like that, what's native and what you can clear out and what's going to cause erosion and just kind of like all that. And where are you going to run electricity? And, we are lucky to be around lakes and ponds and rivers where getting water up into those mountains is sometimes very difficult too, depending on like snowmaking. So we kind of, our hill that we design is in the Midwest, but we do talk a lot about in class and like give plans for what happens if you were to expand or do something out west, like by you guys and stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, because out west, there's a ton of, issues and things to consider when you're going to even build a new lift within the resort's parameters already, right? Let alone if you're going to, involve new area, new land. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
You had a question though?
Yeah. So a question, a little bit of a comment here, because I find it very interesting, and I'm curious if you guys teach anything on this. But one of the resorts here in Utah, if you've heard of Snowbird, it's a very popular resort in Utah, right?
Lots of fun. Yep.
Yeah. A lot. I mean, they've got such great promotions. Everyone loves just like their ads because they're all about being steep and deep. And they'll advertise, bad reviews. Somebody left at Snowbird because it was too steep and they had a hard time getting down the hill, right? And there was too much snow. I couldn't ski. There was so much powder, we're like, that's what I'm looking for,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So one of the things Snowbird's been doing here in Utah has been an expansion, right? And they've been expanding into their back area of Mineral Basin and wanting to go into Marion Gulch. And the talks about that, there's been a lot of discussion of like what size of chairlift we're going to put back there and how we're going to upgrade the other chairlifts around the resort. And then even going on, why they haven't done this upgrade yet, has been talks about pollution, right? Soil pollution and water pollution, specifically because Utah's in such a desert. They have to be very careful about pollution. Tell us a little bit about, maybe some of the aspects I mentioned there, lifts, soil pollution, and any of that stuff that maybe you've learned or have talked about. How far have you guys gone into some of that in your program?
No, so that's a great question. A lot of things to kind of consider too is like, so right off the bat is what your power source is and stuff. And I know based on like, the comment about like thinking about pollution and stuff like that, sometimes a lot of those like backcountry lifts or those back bowls that we call them and stuff, those lifts are usually run off like a diesel generator, like a Cummins generator. So that'll actually give the power to the lift instead of having to run, how many miles of cable back there and stuff. So there's a concern. I mean, that's air pollution, even though there's mufflers and, filters and DEF systems. But sometimes that can be a cause. Also, just the general like trenching. I mean, you're going to be placing towers, you're going to be cutting down trees, you're going to be, pouring big cement pads and blocks and stuff like that. So, and it's not as much pollution, but, grease does come off the shiv wheels and stuff like that. We've all seen it and things like that. So, there are concerns with that. And a lot of it too is just kind of like displacing trees and plant life, and then checking for, animals, especially like wetlands and stuff like that. And just seeing kind of if there's any, species, whether it's plant or animal, that's endangered or close to the endangered list, being very mindful of that as well. And then kind of when you go into designing, kind of back to what I was talking about with that capacity of just how many skiers do you feel are going to be back there, and based on that we can run numbers on steeper trails have less people on it normally and stuff like that, as far as like compared to beginner and intermediate areas oftentimes, and then kind of considering if you want a high-speed detachable or a fixed grip, where one kind of fun thing we like to talk about too is most people don't know the line does not really move faster, whether it's a fixed grip or a detach, because the detachable, if you've noticed, the chair spacing is so much more because it speeds up. So actually, you're still moving about the same amount. Like if you had a high-speed quad and a fixed gripped quad, you're about moving pretty much the same amount of people just because of the spacing. So what resorts do is they're very generous to us in putting those expensive high-speed detach because it benefits us getting up the hill so much quicker. So it's kind of things to consider is, okay, is this going to be a super popular lift where we'd like to put in a detachable, or is this going to be, more of those advanced skiers who don't mind a fixed grip and, we're kind of making our way to the back bowls and, right. Either would be fine. But that's oftentimes why you see some of those more advanced areas having like a slower chairlift or like a T-bar, some of that sort, and everything come out of the base is going to be that high speed, 6-8 person, as we get on larger resorts and stuff like that. So it's all kind of considering on what you want to do, because even though like some installation costs might be similar, the difference between a quad and an 8-person chair, I mean, the rope size and having to pay for that when that needs to get redone, and shivs, you're going to have a lot of different amount of shivs based on the weight on that and stuff too. Also, your carriers or your chairs are going to have a different pricing as well, including the grips and whether or not it's going to have that big bubble that you pull down. So there's a lot of small costs that can add up, especially when you're going to look into your like yearly maintenance and things like that. Even how many shiv assemblies and how many rotation pieces are going to need grease and stuff like that. Yeah, it's not super expensive, but I mean, when you start talking like miles of chairs and stuff like that, it can add up pretty quick. So it's kind of something to keep in consideration, and just for budgetary purposes as well too.
That's super interesting.
Yeah,
because it makes me think of Brighton Ski Resort. That's where I usually find myself skiing the most, and they just put in a 6-person lift. Yep. They replaced Crest, and now it fits 6. And just like you said, the way up is way shorter, right? It's like 5 minutes. That thing cooks. But they can't get people on it any faster. So people, like, the line is getting longer simply because like people are getting back quicker, right? So it's very interesting. It's almost like counterintuitive. Yeah. In the way that you'd think like, oh, faster lift means less lines, when really it's like people are getting on and off at the same speed.
Yeah. No, you hope, because how slow it comes around in the load and unload, that you can guarantee to fit like the full 6 people, get them in there. It's going slower. You hopefully don't have to slow down the lift anymore or stop it if somebody falls, as opposed to like a fixed grip. You're finding it stops a little bit more. So that's about the one thing that might vary in line speed. But like you said, it's the crowd and how fast the line moves is usually about the same. If everything's running, nonstop, it's very close to the same calculation. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then I had another question. So you said fixed grip versus, what was the other one? Detached?
Yeah.
Detachable or high speed.
Yeah. So what is the, like, on average, the cost difference? Like, what percentage are you jumping when you get no longer fixed? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Yeah.
Is it? Maybe before you even hit that, if you could explain, because like, I don't even know what we're talking about, like detached versus fixed grip, right?
Yeah. So, no, I could find the calculations for that too. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it goes up like quite a bit. But okay, so fixed grip is going to be something that just has 2 bull wheels, 1 bull wheel, 1 top, and it's just it's called a fixed grip because the grip is going to essentially clamp onto the haul rope, and that's what's going to circulate around. It hardly moves. It does have a spring on it to like decompress when it comes around a bull wheel, so it doesn't mess with that. And actually the chairs over a season it allows it to slide back X amount of feet. That's something we kind of like go over and also check with our inspectors, but it allows it to slide back just a little bit. I mean, it's not much over a whole season. Sometimes it's 20 feet, sometimes it's more or less. But then what a detach is, and a fixed grip or detached high speed is, how it can get you going fast is because at the bottom and top are going to be actually 2 bull wheels. So your main one is going to be the one that's running at that really high speed, and then that second bull wheel on each one is going to be running at the low speed. So you actually have sensors and pressures in there where the grip as it comes through is going to actually lift off, and then it's going to place onto the other rope that's on the upper bull wheel. That's the one that's going slower. So that's when it comes in, it decelerates because it picks off, clamps onto the other one, goes around. Once everybody's loaded, unclamps again, gets put on the high speed, and then you're headed up to the top. So that's why it's called detachable, because the grips actually detach, and it's cool. And places that like need to take them off like every night, sometimes like Mount Hood and stuff like that, when they're up on a glacier, if you don't take them off every night, they get iced like crazy. So they actually have the computer system is nice. It loads it itself as so you feed the conveyor and stuff, and then the conveyor will send out a chair in the proper spacing that it's calculated for.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so it's like
I've never thought about that before. No. I just see a chair and I sit on it.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's like the difference between for those of you who ski Brighton a lot, right? It's like the difference between Majestic and Crest, right? Majestic would be like your fixed chair where they have to like the lifty like grabs it and like slings it back and like eases you onto it and then lets go, right? Versus the detached is one that like really slows down and approaches and then you sit on it. So
yeah,
that's
and
wild.
something even more funny is Riblet Chairlift. It's a specific company that actually the grip is intertwined in the haul rope. So what you have to do is like, let's say this is the haul rope. You take a Enerpack like compressor, and you actually have to squeeze the rope together so it unspirals, and then you take out the core. You got to clip out the like inner core. You slip the chair into there, and then you release tension, so the grip is actually around the chair. So the chair is inside of the haul rope, and that's a very old school lift and stuff. We still got a bunch of them in the Midwest, but yeah, it's kind of funny. So those are true fixed grips because they don't slide. Because sometimes people refer to like the normal fixed grip as a slip grip because you have that, like I said, that opportunity to move back or like decompress around the bull wheels. But yeah, kind of a funny one that some people don't know about if you're not from the Midwest.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
Cool.
So I feel like we've hit everything in this section, but I did have another question about snowmaking I wanted to get into.
Well, that really is our next section.
Our next segment?
Here. Okay. It was really snowmaking and maintenance of like the mountain, right? Before we hit it, I have to say though, I don't know how many people are familiar with like Jeremy Jones boards, right? Because when you start talking about this is what gets me excited, because he actually went out, built his own little. Like he has his own little cabin in the backcountry and built his own little snow pole. So like pull him back up to the top of the hill with his kids. And it's really interesting to hear you talk about this. And before we move on, maybe even just give our listeners, I almost want to say a little reassurance, because to me, I hear so much technicalities. How hard is this to grasp? How much time do you think it takes to really start to understand how these machines work? And is it, as technical as it seems, just the little words for comfort there, Josh.
Yeah, no, totally. So yeah, like your general overview and stuff like that, you can learn that relatively quick, especially if you're like hands-on and this stuff kind of like clicks with you, things like that. And each section kind of has its own level of like difficulty and stuff, like tow ropes are relatively easy. I mean, I've built them in a backyard with an ATV and stuff like that. You get up into like handle tows and then T-bars and magic carpets. And, sometimes magic carpets are actually very intricate. I haven't had too much of an opportunity to working on them, but they're very fascinating. They're more complicated than you think. But at the same time, it's like, when you spend a ton of time with this, and especially when you break off into different departments and stuff like that, you really get to learn this stuff quick because you're working on it all the time. And especially like down season, summertime, mud season, you have a lot of times to work with this. So like lift mechanics are solid. And actually oftentimes, like when you get out to large resorts, you actually have multiple departments in one department, if you want to put it. Like, for example, like lift mechanics could break down into true lift mechanics and lift electricians. So you have like the very niche kind of things like that. And like same thing with like grooming, you might have grooming operators or you have snowcat maintenance. So you just have guys that just do the mechanical side and really don't always do the grooming. Sometimes you have like Midwest, we like to do a little bit of like everything, smaller resorts and stuff like that. We kind of dabble in multiple departments and things, but no, usually it's really nice, especially because you have like strict inspectors for lifts, especially because that is what the public uses the most. If not, I mean, you really don't have public snowmaking or grooming, that's for sure, unless they're both skiing and snowboarding there, as well. So it's that's really nice that, state requires it, or at least at the minimum, the insurance requires the state inspector to come through, or an inspector of some sort, right. Each state has their own legality and stuff like that. But no, it is very, very safe. And people, I mean, resorts do such a good job in training and stuff. And, people are, being able to make careers out of all of this and really find their kind of niche. But yeah, no, it is good to learn. It's not too hard as long as you like it, it's stuff clicks. And it's nice too, because you can kind of bring stuff to others. Once you learn general mechanics, like gearboxes and stuff like that, and you can hop onto something else once you learn like, control relay systems and things like that, and how electric drives work. It's nice how you can kind of place it in different categories and stuff.
I love that. That's cool.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Anything else? Follow-ups?
No, that's
Okay.
great. No,
Awesome.
I love that. I could talk forever about mechanics.
Yeah.
Because that's just like a personal hobby of mine. And now I'm like, dude, like, I don't know, maybe I need to make a career change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I might need to go.
We'd be happy to have you.
Well, and he's like restoring a motorcycle. Would you say restoring?
Yeah,
Is that the right word? Restoring a motorcycle.
Good
He's
for
almost
you.
done. So, yeah, this is right up his alley.
Yeah. So when you started talking about all the little details, I'm like, dude, tell me more.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
over to snowmaking. So you mentioned that in the Midwest, you got a lot of lakes and ponds that you can kind of take water from and source for your snowmaking. So what's the like maximum amount of snow that you could make? And then on the other side of that, if you're in a mountain area or like a place that doesn't have as many ponds and water reserves, how difficult is it to obtain the water you need to make snow?
Yeah. So starting off in the Midwest, it really depends. So a lot of resorts will actually dig their own ponds and just whatever size they feel like they need, doing calculations. Okay, here's how many trails we have, here's the guns, here's our, pressure and water flow, and here's how much we think we'll go through based on, average temps, because you can make a lot more snow at 10 degrees than you can at 25 degrees. So it's kind of depends on we call it how many valves you can open on a snow gun, because they all have different like rings of nozzles. So you can decide how much you want to open up and do calculations based on that. And a lot of us are lucky too that since we're so low here that we can drill wells. So plenty of times if need to keep the pond refilled, you drill a well and just have that pumping, on a sensor if it reaches a certain level, so you keep your ponds full. We have some resorts that rely off of rivers, which is actually the most lucky, because normally there's not, each state is different, each area is different, but normally DNR, since like if the resort is facing the river and all the runoff in the spring is going to go back to the river and stuff like that. Also, the flow is like, if the flow is really good and stuff, you don't always have a restriction on pulling from that. Sometimes what you got to worry about is if you are pulling from a lake. And the lake is, not your property per se. If you are by a lake, and same things with river, but lake might be a little bit more different depending on how much water you're asking to pull from there. Do all of your slopes face the lake so it could run back in? And what is the lake used for? Some of them are crazy for ice fishing and they're packed, so you can't suck down a bunch of water and have the ice possibly collapse for them. So it's really, each area is very unique, but we are lucky, in fact, that most of us dig ponds and store our water that way, put in a well, something like that. As far as out west, it's an interesting challenge trying to get piping all the way up and stuff. But same thing, if you can work with the forestry and DNR and at least dig ponds, whether or not you can drill a well based on where your water source is or the water table is, if you can drill a well, or if you can coordinate your runoff in what we call water bars, which sometimes if you see in the summer, they look like these just ditches that go down the hill at an angle. Those are called water bars. So you try to work with like the flow of your slope and of your land to see if you can get it back into a pond and hopefully store that for the summer and hang on to that and hopefully make it big enough or something like that. But again, it's working with forestry, so there's ideas like that, but it's trying to retain all the snow that you can get. And it's hard for some years, like 2 years ago, I think everybody kind of ran into that gnarly season of it was just not good. It was raining. I mean, we had mud in February and stuff. So it's hard for that because those resorts like out west didn't retain all the water. So now you got to get a game plan on where we can pull from. Can we drill? Can we, will they allow us to, pipe and pull from somewhere and stuff? So it's, it's a much more interesting game out there, especially like you guys, like you said, are closer to a desert area, so it's you got water restrictions for sometimes the community based on what community somebody's in and stuff like that. So it's trying to work through that and just being as respectful and nice as you can to the DNR and forestry, because their pride and love is for the environment and animals and all that, which is amazing and stuff. So it's just like some people can try to take advantage of that or try to get rubbed the wrong way. But it's like, no, we have those people there to protect the wildlife, protect our forest, which we desperately need. Because when you go skiing, you want to be in the forest, you want to be immersed in the mountains and stuff like that. You don't want to feel like it's, so it's just always being good with them and stuff. And they're always good back pretty much. I mean, I personally never dealt with any issues. So it's just, but I get there's some push like, hey, we need a lift here. And, this is going to increase our customers by this much. It's like, hey, but this just messed up an entire species or something that only was hanging out in this area. So it's like, you got to find that fine line a little bit and try to like work together and stuff like that.
Right.
And but no, it can definitely be a challenge. I will say that.
Yeah. So I have a follow-up question. Do you have any?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So it was really interesting to me when you were talking about like if you had access to a river and all of your slopes are facing back towards the river. Because that's basically like an unlimited supply, kind of, right? Unlimited. But let's say you did have like that perfect scenario, unlimited. How many inches in an hour can a snow gun produce if it's running with no limitations?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's because there's so many different guns, it's hard to say. But I mean, for example, like if you got 10 degrees, the air and water guns are like your best. Sometimes we call them sticks in the Midwest. So it's essentially just you're feeding your hose, your fire hose from your line, and you have a compressor. There's no fan. So what that does is just nozzle at the end. You stick them like 40 feet in the air. You got 10 degrees and not even much wind. And sometimes wind's fine and stuff like that. It really depends on your area and like your trees and your width and all that slope. But if you're in a nice area, wide open area and stuff, and you can let the gun, I mean, there are times where it's just like you come back after a half hour after checking your whole thing and you got to shift the whole gun. I mean, it's things like that where there's a joke around that says water sticks will bury themselves if you don't go and check them. So it's things like that. And you have all different types of guns and different like sizes based on like nozzles. Like, we have an automated Techno Alpin system, and their guns are amazing. We have one on a tower that just swivels for like the night if there's not much wind in one direction or the other, and that'll stack up. I mean, I've come back after, like I said, half hour, come back 45 minutes or something, depends on what other guns you were checking and stuff. And you could have like feet of snow. Wow. So it really, it depends on how you want it and stuff. And like sometimes, if it's earlier season and sometimes you can put out a little bit more of a wet snow because, it's covering the base versus like when you get more towards like actually opening up, you want the like most crisp snow and like nothing melting and stuff like that. So you kind of play with it, watch your water run off, and like, because the weight of all the snow hammering down on these like big piles, all that weight is going to push out water. So you want to watch that. So find the right balance of not too wet, not too dry and stuff like that. And, but yeah, you can, in the right temperature and full open, you can crank out a lot of good snow, and it depends. Yeah, like I said, it's sometimes in the right case. I mean, you come back and it's just like a whole new mound just formed. So it's like, okay, got to turn the gun this way and stuff. And then sometimes on warmer days, it's like, okay, this gun was just like at 25 degrees. Like, okay, this gun was pointing the entire night the same way. Yeah, we did get a bunch of snow made and stuff, but it's not like it got to a point where it made a big mound right in front of it. And it's like, okay, hey, got to move this gun, or even to the point of getting out the cat and hey, we got to level this all out and stuff. Let's move it to a different spot or something.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah. So I started thinking while you were explaining that, Josh, but have you guys ever skied on a ski resort and the guns are always like in the same spot? Yeah. It's like you can count on it. Where that is. How do you know? I mean, what are the resorts doing to determine where to place the snow gun?
That's a great question.
Right. And then upon that, like you said, you got to pump water to it. Mm-hmm. Right. So are you using, like you said, like a big fire hose and just pumping water from the base? Or are you usually locating small ponds like around the resort and building little ditches to store water? I don't know.
How's that work?
Now you got me thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So mostly, I mean, the basic way to start is coming out of the pump. You'll lay actual like metal pipe throughout what runs you want, and then you pop up hydrants out of those. Standard 100, 200 feet apart from each other, and then that you'll have your electric pedestal with it, usually running off 480 volt. And so you kind of base where you want snow made. I mean, a lot of resorts will focus mainly, beginner area, main part, intermediate runs, and stuff like that. So you got to really lay out where you want them. Do you want mobile guns? Do you want mounted tower guns, which can sit up? And the higher it up it is, usually, you can make more snow. And so based off that, off your hydrant, you will run like fire hoses. Usually it's like, depending on where it is. I mean, for us, it's about like 1 or 2 50-foot hoses. Sometimes if we're trying to reach some spot, I'm like, oh, hey, we don't have a line here. I'll bring out 4. I brought out like 8 to 12 before too, because I was like, I need snow way over there. So it's like, you can do that and you bring your electric. You have huge extension cords and stuff like that that you can move. And then also you have like booster pumps. So sometimes like there's so many different ways to do it. Sometimes you have like a booster pump midway up the mountain just to keep the pressure going because you need the high pressure. And then sometimes like you can have, okay, this pump is just for filling this upper pond because then we're going to use gravity in our favor and we're going to put a smaller pump right here, shoot it downhill, fill all of our lines and stuff like that. And some areas are really unique to have an air and water line. So you have your main pump pushing all your water, and then you have a separate line just with a massive compressor that you hook up your compressor hose to. And again, those are usually run off like sticks, what we call them and stuff, but it's pretty much just small tubulars with like a bunch of nozzles at the end rather than those big circle fan guns, because those are fans. Those have a compressor for the nozzles as well as water, and then you have a massive fan that's actually blowing it out. So that's why normally like sticks and stuff like that will sit a little bit higher because it needs that time to kind of like float down and move and actually turn into snow and stuff like that. So it's all that fine line. Even with like fan guns, you have to angle it based on, you go out there with your glove, check the quality of snow and see, okay, do I need to raise it more? Is this too high? Am I losing it into the trees, or do I need to be at this height so it has time to freeze before it hits the ground? And sometimes like when I was talking, when it's that 10-degree day and I can just put the guns a lot more face it like forward and a little bit more down because they're just shooting out snow and they're making snow a lot quicker. And then we also have like things like nucleators that are in between the nozzles, which actually like go out and like shatter the water molecule and stuff and allow it to freeze. You have like things like Snow Max, which is another chemical or whatever that you put into your snowmaking line. It feeds at a certain rate or whatever, and that'll make the additive that'll make the snow freeze a lot quicker and things like that, so you can put out a bit more. And then another really cool thing is like back to where you're saying like where do you place them, how do you move snow, because a lot of it is just we kind of get the feel for the hill because you've been around before the snow hits, so the different ridges and that, and you're like, okay, this is about this much snow, okay, I'm by this tree, I know this much. But what's really cool is Prenoth and Piston Bully both have different systems for measuring snow. And one of them you send out like LiDAR, and it's actually all based on that. So you get scans. So in your cat, you got your little touch screen, and it's like, oh, hey, I need snow right here. And it's actually becoming very beneficial, especially out like west, east on some of those like bigger slopes and stuff. Because there's like, hey, actually, I don't need to make snow on this run tonight. I'm going to save 20 grand over the next 24, 48 hours and stuff. And that is where it adds up really quick. And then it pays for that system very, very soon.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's cool.
Right? So that way we can tell our listeners, you can tell people, hey, it's not just about putting powder where you want to ski, right? We're balancing out the resort here. There's a lot more that goes into this too when you're talking cost of money from pumping water out, around the entire resort, to also like you said, taking care of high trafficked areas where the snow level is just getting lower, or maybe areas that are more affected by just conditions, sun melts and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
really awesome. And part of that one class too, the cost class, is we have horsepower to like watt ratios of like how much kilowatts is this going to use, and like, okay, then we know the cost based on your area for how much electricity. So we have a full breakdown like, hey, here's a season of our average snowmaking. we know exactly how much we're spending and stuff like that. So it's again, that class gets very elaborate, which like I said is one of my favorites, but it's cool. It's you break it down. Okay, hey, this gun is 10 horsepower, this one's 15. It's here's how much we're running it and stuff, and you can take estimated costs, and then you can kind of and a lot of times that's nice for like managers and stuff, like, hey, if we don't run this night, or if we run this night and hold off another night, like, hey, let's do it when the temperatures are good, or vice versa. It's really nice to like once you like learn those numbers and have those calculations, it can save you and help you a lot too if you use them right.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Gaining a lot of appreciation for our local resort.
Yes,
to be honest.
absolutely.
You
I
know?
am.
Yeah, they go through a lot. It's
Yeah.
they love it, but yeah, they go. It's I didn't know it too until I dove into it. I'm like, really, this is how it works and stuff. And yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I don't know if we have another point, but I want to be sensitive of your time because he's an hour ahead of us.
Yeah.
But I wanted to actually ask about, if I came to if Austin came to your school
Heck yeah.
and took your program,
Yep.
towards the end of the program, you said you had like some job opportunities or like paid internships.
The
You
co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah, what can people
Yep.
expect job-wise once they finish the program?
Yeah. Good question. So, like, basically how it works. So, for our 2 years at Gogebic, the first year you're going to be on premise the whole time. You're going to be working through the season with us and stuff like that. You're going to come back for your second year, and you're going to be in classes for 8 weeks, a quarter of the semester or a quarter of the year, half a semester. And so you finish up a couple other classes. Like right now, I'm teaching them that's when the cost class. So they come back after they made their map from last semester, bring it over. We're doing cost, and then also we get into risk analysis where we're going through like lawsuits and how to handle everything, how to keep your resort from getting sued, hopefully. And so you get those classes, and then what we do is, and we've been talking with them because we already have internships lined up for these second year students. We just call them first year, second years, just for ease. And so what we like to do is right away, like I'm working with the first year students, I'm saying like, hey, just pay attention what you enjoy, what you really don't enjoy, what you want to look forward to, and maybe where you want to be. So we put them, like I said, coast to coast. Some people love staying in the Midwest, going out east, going out west. Some people want to stay by their family, whatever it might be. So what we like to do is ask them what you would like to do and where you might want to be. And if you got a specific resort, even better. So we can talk to people, and we got great contacts all over the U.S. and we're always willing to make more. I mean, everybody pretty much likes to take our phone call because we can send them a qualified worker. And it's we like I said, we got everybody from sales rep to rental tech to grooming, snowmaking, lift maintenance, to ski school. We've had a Sam travel the whole world with the U.S. ski team and stuff like that. So we just pretty much after that 8 weeks, they head out to their internship and they do that for the rest. They have some of their online classes for their gen eds, as well as our classes turn into assignments, more or less. We meet with them like usually weekly, every other week. They have their supervisor sign stuff, usually try to speak to their supervisor, go out and visit them if we can. And so we work with them. They send in reports of what they've been working on, what they've been learning. So it's mostly a very good learning experience for them. And then that's where they either come back and go to finish their 4-year degree, which is a good help if you're interested in getting more into that like upper management style of stuff. Not saying that you can't get an upper management with the associate's degree, just some of the corporate level and stuff like that, like to look for the bachelor's. So it's a little bit easier of a way in, maybe I should say. But no, I mean, there's plenty of SAMs with the associates that are GMs, mountain managers and stuff. My personal SAM or personal class I went with and stuff, I got one that is lead lift mechanic over at Mammoth Mountain and stuff. I have
cool.
lead
That's
groomers in my class, and it's really neat. Our past Sam is our techno alpine rep, so I get to talk to him all the time and stuff too. So it's really nice that you get to go through that. You have your opportunity, and it's a good way to get your foot in the door because we send you out doing what you want to do. You don't got to start somewhere, work your way up. It's like, hey, I want to go snowmaking groom. Boom, I got it set up. Where are you thinking about going and stuff like that? And then as well as we have integrated Facebook page of Gogebic Sam's, Instagram. We have group chats like crazy. One big thing is the networking. It's just like, hey, I'd like to go here. I don't know who's over there. Let me hit up a few people and stuff like that. So the network is really great. I mean, we've had over 600 SAMs go through the program. You know, at least like there's like half of them that are at least in the field, or the other half like dabble in the field and then have their other jobs and stuff too. So it's just and all of them are just like have such a great passion for it and stuff. Like one past SAM is helping a resort get up and going again back in Wisconsin and stuff. Yeah, it's just a really unique, and it just opens a lot of doors for people and stuff. And then also we have our summer lift class, which we do for 3 weeks. You can get your level 1, 2, and 3, and anybody can take that. It's outside of the actual Gogebic SAM program, but it's you know, any SAM can take it, any person can take it. So that really focuses on all of your you know, rigging, your basic lift maintenance and stuff, all of those details. And then we find, especially in the Midwest, getting into those control relay systems like those 24-volt panels and stuff, and how to wire up a lift. And it's actually really cool. We each pair up and we get our own panels, and it's like, hey, I want this many towers, I want this many stops, I want this fast and slow, wire it and go. And you have panels and everything, and you're putting in all the control relays and timer relays and stuff like that. And then the second and third year, you're getting into like the PLC and the programming and stuff like that. So it really gives you an idea how just a lift works top to bottom, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities, honestly. Just listening to you talk, like I think this is a great program, honestly. Looking back, I mean, I did my bachelor's degree in accounting, right, with a minor in business management. And so it was something I wanted to point out that you had mentioned is by going to Gogebic Community College, not only do you get to gain a large amount of education on ski area management, but also this is leading into a business management degree, right? And that's important to point out, I think, because you have this main focus that shows where you want to be, what you're good at, something that's unique from any other college, really, by being able to gain the specific ski area management, you know, content and this education. But then you also are able to apply that in a broader context as well, right? And that opens up a lot of doors for the future when you're able to have that paired with the business management major. And so having a program that also applies to considering that for people, I think, is a huge deal. And that's awesome. So,
well, I look at like my situation, right? So I finished my program, and the associate level program is simply just like ski and snowboard business. And then my bachelor's degree is in leadership and management. So then when I went and started working at a ski shop, I became an assistant manager, and then I was Austin's assistant manager. And then I, you know, became a manager. And from there, being a manager of a ski shop and having a family that you don't want to live in your mother's basement, sometimes they don't mix very well. So, you know, I kind of had to pivot, and some things changed, and, you know, became an accountant, but I still had these tools to, you know, do stuff like this and like talk about skis and be involved. And there's been multiple times where like I worked at Curated for a little bit and like sold skis and did some demo shows. And like, this knowledge has really come with me, even though I'm not working in the field, right? Because I'm an accountant. But like, it's been amazing. So I'm sure people are gaining a ton of knowledge and insight that no matter if they stay or become an accountant, they'll still value that information. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can take it anywhere, and yeah, even at the Gogebic level, you have required management and business classes outside of the SAM program, and an accounting class and stuff too, like that. As well as we do teach the marketing and management of like the ski area. So yeah, like you said, you get a little bit of both. So whatever you're kind of doing, you got some good broad knowledge of how management and business kind of works together.
Yeah, totally.
I love that.
And then before we end, so there's like a kind of a lag between people writing. So I'm going to open it up for questions if we have any in the chat. We've got just a couple people, but while we wait for those, do you have any questions for us, or is there anything else that you feel like you want to touch on?
Trying to think. No, you guys have been great. I just appreciate you guys hosting this and asking some good questions, and I like to share the passion and stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, I guess where did you guys grow up skiing? Like, what was your kind of considered your home hill, or do you guys still ride your home hill? I know you mentioned Brighton and like Snowbird and stuff like that. So have you guys always been kind of in that area?
Yeah.
Go
So
for it.
I grew up here, but my family, we skied like the canyons. It's not the canyons anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know they merged. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So like Park City, but then we started going to Brighton a lot more, and that's kind of been home for oh, 10 plus years. So like it's a lot
Yeah.
closer. It's an awesome vibe. There's not like
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you go to ski resorts and they can be kind of stuck up, right? Brighton's like
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
chill, like
Oh,
super welcoming.
amazing.
So yeah,
Yeah. One of my favorites out there for sure.
yeah, totally. Well, next time you're here, hit me up. We'll go.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that. I love that. I might have to come see. I got like 4 or 5 Sams that are working in the Park City Canyon or Cottonwood Canyon area valley. So they're all spread out in there, but there was a good group of them that went all out at the same time and still doing that. So yeah, I'm gonna try to make my way out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me know.
Definitely should. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What about
You
you?
know, yeah, my experience very different, right? So growing up, I mean, I grew up here local in Sandy, Utah. I think one of the best like ways, I mean, got to promote my hometown, right? One of the best
Yeah.
parts about Utah is that you literally live like 30 minutes from the resort.
Mm-hmm.
And it's different from a lot of states where it's like you got to drive an hour to get to the resort, right? Where I'm like, look in my backyard and I'm looking right into the mountains, you know, and
Mhm.
it's just gorgeous.
Mhm.
But having said that, I was part of a big baseball family. And
Oh,
when you're big in sporting, coaches, parents, they're like, no skiing.
Yeah.
Skiing
yeah.
is how you hurt yourself, apparently.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the rumor that gets
Yeah.
spread. So
Oh, yeah.
parents said I may have skied a little bit when I was like very young. Don't remember it. I didn't start skiing till I was like 16, 17 years old, right?
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
yeah, I went skiing my first time. It was junior year of high school. I had my first time skiing with my dad as like a Christmas gift. And the next year, I like quit sports and I just went and bought a season pass. I was like,
That's
this
awesome.
is it, man.
I love
Like,
that. That's
done with
awesome.
these team sports.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Yeah. Go
Snowbird
shred.
was my first season pass, you know.
Nice.
And
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Great place.
Mhm.
I loved it. I had friends going there. I think that's a super important thing to have is like a good group of people to ski with because they can help share knowledge, they can help you grow, and it just starts to build that community, right? And
Totally.
that's a big part for me of why I started skiing. It's also been a big complaint about the ski industry that I've had is that a lot of people are losing the community around the
Yeah.
ski
Mhm.
industry, and that for me is a big deal. But I love that about Snowbird. They've always been really great on just the way they treat people. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a question in the chat. When looking
Yep.
forward, where do you see most potential for innovation in the ski industry?
Yeah. Great question.
Love that.
Yeah. Thanks more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing like looking forward is kind of addressing how it seems like we're whatever you want to put it, if it's climate change, whatever, everybody's got their own thing, but we do notice, I mean, we're having a little bit less snowfall. I mean, I know it kind of varies year to year, but I mean, we're having later snowfall, a little bit less snowfall and stuff like that. It seems like a little bit earlier for spring. You know, like I said, each area is a bit different, but I think just trying to get the game plan for people of like, what do we want to do? Do we want to offer other amenities or do we want to make it, like you said, we love that community feel and stuff like that. How can we incorporate more people at these places that may not ski the entire day, may not even ski at all with their family? You know, what can we do that we can provide that's not, you know, costing the customer a lot to do an activity? You know, what else can we provide during the winter? Is it ice skating? Is it cross country, snowshoe, things like that? What can we do there? And if we can't always do more amenities in the winter time, it's like, okay, what are we doing maybe in the summer that can, you know, kind of compensate for some of our, you know, whether it's lack of revenue during the winter or we're just kind of needing more for more expansion of projects. It's, you know, are we doing mountain biking, zip lining, mountain coasters, golf? Like there's a lot of different routes, but I think it's trying to figure out what you can do to get more people, you know, just being around the community and around the mountain, especially winter and summer, but just kind of taking into consideration that our winters may not be as good as they once were, sadly. I mean, some years we have really good, some not so great, but I think it's just kind of getting that game plan of how you can be a sustainable resort and as well as provide a good community and a vibe there,
Totally. I love that. I
Yeah.
think that's awesome.
I think that's great. I mean, I think a personal idea too around innovation around the ski resort. I mean, I've learned so much already today as we've been talking. And I think, there is a lot of opportunity for innovation in this industry. We've talked a little bit about even energy and power resources, right? Using diesel generators to help power things. There's probably a lot of opportunity on how can we improve efficiency? How can we improve this like power source? A lot of people are moving towards electric with like other vehicles and things. And maybe there's ways that we can start looking at improving those areas of the resort to be, like you said, more environmentally friendly, but also there's a lot of cost benefits in those. But it takes time, like we're just there with cars and we still are having electric cars that are run off of like coal power plants. So it's really not that much better, right? But I do think that's a big area for innovation, you know?
Well, and I also think more on like the person level, right? The personal level. You look at these ski wax companies that are starting to get away or get to like more natural ski waxes, right?
No petroleum, all natural.
Exactly. Yep. So there are like these big innovations like you're talking about, energy consumption and different things. But then there's also like small, like more tailor fit innovations that are happening, like with ski wax or travel to get people to the mountain or helping them maximize their day, whether that's comfort or food, whatever that might be, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
But that's great.
Yeah. It looks like we got another comment.
Here. Sounds like an awesome program, says Lynn. So
appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap things up.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time, Josh. It's been great
to
dive in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys a ton. Yeah.
Wow,
this means a lot. I love chatting and just spreading the word. I can talk about ski hills and stuff all day. So you guys are a great bunch. I mean, this is awesome. Love your guys' show, podcast. That's awesome what you guys do. And we need more people like you, just creating, expanding that community, and just even back to the innovation, just we all can help each other and stuff like that and get more people into it. And just it's a very cool community. And appreciate you guys' time. This has been truly amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we'll post for people who have missed, tell them what they missed out, and they can watch it back. So
we'll include all the links as well for Gogebic Community College on our YouTube video here for our podcast. Like I said already, I'm like super stoked about this. Talking has been so fun. And I just think this is a really good program that we would really like to promote. So I'm very excited about this and very thankful to have this time to talk with you, Josh.
Yeah, thank you guys a ton.
Yeah, no problem. You have a good night.
Awesome.
Yeah, take care, guys.
Yep. Join with us next time, everyone, with